Investment Minister says banks must diversify their services to better support businesses. And thousands reconnected as NWC Amnesty clears $1.4 billion in debt for vulnerable Jamaicans. In regional business news, Guyanese presidential candidate Azruddin Mohammed granted $500,000 bail in high-profile tax evasion case. Jagdeo warns of business and political fallout from association with U.S.-sanctioned gold dealer Azruddin Mohammed. And St. Lucia's government slashes intra-Caribbean airport charges by 50%, effective June 1. In international business news, Canada's economy expands 0.5% in Q1 of 2025, surpassing market expectations. Meanwhile, U.S. inflation eases in April amid cooling consumer spending. And WTI crude oil prices dip below $60 amid ongoing trade tensions and OPEC Plus output concerns. The details after this break. Please stay with us.
Alphabet down 6, Microsoft down 5.
Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited has been a part of Jamaica's manufacturing landscape for over 20 years. By crafting unique flavors and fragrances, we have become a part of your favorite household and food items such as beverages, ice cream, household cleaners, and much more. Known throughout the Caribbean for the highest quality, we continue to innovate with strong leadership, a dedicated team with integrity. We go the extra mile for our customers. Create the next taste sensation. Contact us at 876-9235-111 or visit our website, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn pages.
You may have fears in listing on the main market or the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Whatever those fears are, we can help you to allay them. Give us a call today. Our friendly professional staff will help you through the process. Let us have that conversation. Give us that call.
Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. What you put in is what you get out. What you put in is what you get out. Yeah. Build up your body, boost up your brain. Take on the world now. Say bye-bye pain. Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. Be good to you. Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. Distributed by Amalgamated Distributors Limited.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
Me grew up and see my granny save her money under her mattress.
Exactly. Okay.
Your grandmother house never burned down?
No, how you reach this, so?
That was a one-off thing.
That could have happened to anybody. That's why you must put your money in a financial institution and protect it.
But if the bank crash?
Well, that's where JDIC comes in.
What you mean?
JDIC is a financial safety net which provides coverage for your money in case your financial institution fails.
Explain that to me.
Alright, because of the JDIC deposit insurance scheme, once you put your money into a financial institution like a bank or building society, you can get coverage of up to a maximum of $1.2 million per deposit of your financial institution if it should fail. And for even more information, you can visit their new website at www.jdic.org, and you can follow the social media platforms for the latest information.
JDIC, protecting deposits for you and me.
If it were not for the Jamaica Stock Exchange listing, Phosphate Company Limited would not be where it's at today.
Fesco started from 5 shareholders who believed that they could execute a fuel company as good as or as better than any multinational.
Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances. I have seen that our company has expanded tremendously after being listed.
Our experience so far has translated into additional customers.
Being listed on the stock exchange allows us a certain prestige. It also speaks to accountability and transparency.
Our transparency has allowed us to access credit easier and at better rates.
We have expanded in terms of our customer base, in terms of our suppliers.
All the fears I had about banks, about losing control, you are having them. And I tell you, they were dissipated when I spoke to the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
So if you're a private company thinking about growing your profits, having better access to capital, I really think you should consider listing on the junior or the main market.
You may have fears in listing on the main market or the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Whatever those fears are, we can help you to allay them. Give us a call today. Our friendly professional staff will help you through the process. Let us have that conversation. Give us that call.
Go ahead, have that conversation as soon as possible. We did it and we're very happy.
Make that call now.
You will be glad you did.
Coming along well.
Thanks, man. You know, it's a long time I've been working at it.
I can see that. I saw your mail by the gate, so I picked it up for you. But tell me something. Why are you still receiving dividend checks by mail?
What do you mean about that?
You need to give JCSD a mandate.
You know, me hear about the mandate them. I'm going over there right now.
A mandate means giving instructions to the Jamaica Central Securities Depository Limited, JCSD, relating to the handling of your dividend or interest payment. There are 3 types of mandates. The first is a bank mandate. The second is a hold mandate. Lastly, we have what we call a third-party mandate, with which the investor may wish to send their dividend or interest to someone other than the parties on their account or institution of their choice.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
Alphabet down 6, Microsoft down 5.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. And now, the details. Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Senator Orbin Hill, is urging private sector companies, especially those in the manufacturing industry, to play a greater role in training skilled laborers. This appeal comes as Jamaica continues to grapple with a shortage of qualified workers, which threatens to slow economic growth and industrial expansion. Speaking at the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, JMEA Manufacture 360-Degree Conference, the only event of its kind in Jamaica, held under the theme, Shaping the Future of Jamaican Manufacturing from All Angles on Thursday at the AC Hotel in Kingston, Senator Hill emphasized the need for greater involvement from businesses. He referenced companies already making significant contributions toward workforce development.
Yesterday, I met with somebody, a professor from Germany and his team of young business school students. And they were asking me how Jamaica is going to expand in light of what's happening with trade. And and people needs. And I said to him, I've been talking about the apprenticeship program in Germany, that it wasn't PhDs and lawyers that built back Germany. It was the craftsmen and women who built BMW, who built the leftover of IG Farben, who built Mercedes, and we Jamaicans must now look to make sure. I want to see private sector companies in there doing that, and can go to Jamaica Brothers Group and Grace and so on and say, you don't bother with the training. You tell me what you want, I'll train for you.
He stressed the value of skills training in driving growth.
That training is important, Dashan, to make sure as we work with a 3.5% unemployment rate, we bring more people into the workforce, we train them well, and make sure that they can supply the needs of businesses so that they can build things, sell to the Jamaican people, export, and all of us get rich, because when you pay taxes, I get paid.
The minister also highlighted the government's ongoing efforts in this area.
Heart Trust is spending a lot of money to take people and train them. We have about 700,000 people that are not in the workforce. Some are too young, some are elderly, a few might choose not to be, and some are young men mainly, some young women too, on the roadside, not doing enough. Heart has gone out. We will pay you a stipend of $85,000, I think, but we're going to open a bank account for you. We're going to make sure you get your TRN. That's your ID until NIDS comes. We're going to make sure you get your passport. You're going to get a driver's license. And why are we opening the bank account? Because 15,000 out of that 85,000 is going into that bank account every month. You don't have a choice out about that. When you finish, you get the money. So we're out there training those 300,000 people. Why? Because Chris, as he expands his business, and NCB and Grace and everybody else, you need people. As the young ICT companies, especially with AI, want to do, Sydney just keep on. Have you been to his business? It's fascinating what he does out there. Keeps expanding his business and exporting. He's primarily an exporting company. So he's one of my favorites. But he's going to need people.
Meanwhile, Senator Hill is also urging commercial banks to diversify their offerings to better support Jamaican businesses as they evolve. He also stressed the importance of banks providing more innovative ways to offer capital to support business growth while effectively managing risks.
So we need to make sure the banks are out there looking, and you can't just look at what you've always done. You're going to have to understand a business. And while I don't expect banks to become venture capitalists, because they really are borrowing depositors' money and must be paid back, they're going to have to look at different ways to structure risks, to structure facilities to accommodate the risks that are in a developing economy in order to accompany.
He posed these critical questions to commercial banks and made several propositions on how they could innovate their financial products and services.
How much money are you giving to training facilities? How many companies, how many private sector companies are looking to set up training facilities that do train along an apprenticeship line? And can you get your bankers to help you? So I'd want to see the banks expanding, and as we talk about manufacturing, across the breadth. And there is money to be made even as you manage your risks properly.
At the same time, Minister Hill called on large companies to create opportunities for small businesses, encouraging collaboration that will help smaller enterprises grow.
We want big companies to offer opportunities to small companies. Many big companies are doing that. For instance, when I was at NCB, we made sure we stopped buying all our uniforms from overseas and made sure we buy from a lady who was operating out of her home. Today, She has 140 employees, a huge, big complex, and she sells to 14 different countries, she and her two sons. Now, give Designed by Marx, Miss Marcia Nicely and her two sons a round of applause for being that kind of taking it from small, and for NC.
Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Senator Obin Hill. In other news, more than 34,000 Jamaicans have benefited from an amnesty program implemented by the National Water Commission, NWC, which has resulted in the clearing of approximately $1.4 billion in debt for vulnerable customers. The initiative, which targets pensioners, PATH beneficiaries, and members of the disabled community, offers partial to full reprieve on unpaid water bills, in some cases up to 100%. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda, made the announcement during his contribution to the 2025-2026 sectoral debate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday.
As at May 16th, over 34,000 customers have engaged the process and are seeking to benefit from the amnesty. Madam Speaker, total reconnections thus far, 7,901 customers have benefited, had their debts written off and been reconnected to the Commission. This has also yielded some $547 million in uncollectible revenue. But the more important number, Madam Speaker, is that this administration, through this initiative, has removed $1.4 billion of debt from the pensioners, PATH recipients, and the disabled community who are suffering under this mountain of debt.
He emphasized that those who have already engaged with the NWC will not be penalized by the official cutoff date.
This initiative, for those who have engaged with the Water Commission, they don't need to worry about the date. Once their name is in the system before the end of the month, we will be working through the process, and we intend to reconnect all 34,000 customers.
In the meantime, Minister Samuda has acknowledged growing concerns from other sectors, particularly small and micro businesses, and hinted that further relief measures may be on the horizon.
We also, very shortly, for the number of concerns that have been raised with me by colleague members of Parliament, we are taking a very serious look at the small and micro business sector who also have asked for a similar program. We are going to conclude this for the pensioners and PATH beneficiaries first, and then we will make an announcement very soon for our small and micro business sector.
Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda. Now to foreign currency trading news. $160.12 was the going rate for the US dollar at the end of trading today, the Canadian for $117.11, and the pound sterling for $216.24. The going rate for the euro is $184.25. Next, the trading news from the Jamaica Stock Exchange. 110 stocks traded on the JSE Friday, of which 55 advanced, 35 declined, and 20 traded firm. Leading the winners were Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, Caribbean Clean Energy US dollar, Proven Group US dollar, and Pulse Investments. While the losers were led by AS Bryden & Sons Holdings US dollar, Epley Caribbean Property Fund SCC, 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference, and R.A. Williams Distributors. The main index advanced by 460.35 points, or 0.14%, to close at 324,831.62. The junior market index also advanced, but by 31.87, or 0.91%, to close at 3,523.10. Now to some company news. Cygnus Credit Investments has advised that its board of directors have approved the declaration of quarterly dividends for its Class H and Class I perpetual cumulative redeemable preference shares. The dividends are payable on June 30 to preference shareholders on record as June 16, which is also the ex-dividend date. The dividend payments will be as follows: Jamaican $2.50 per share to holders of the Class H preference shares and US 20 cents per share to holders of the Class I preference shares. At the same time, Fontana has announced the approval of an interim dividend payment of 25 cents per share payable to shareholders on record as of June 10. The ex-dividend date is also June 10 and the payment date is June 25. And Grace Kennedy Financial Group has extended the offer for the ordinary shares of Key Insurance Company to Friday, June 11 at 4:30 p.m. Grace Kennedy says that all other terms and conditions of the offer remain unchanged. And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by Carrie Chris, Regional Ratings. In today's Market Education Feature, we'll be discussing the term patent. A patent is a legal property right granted by a sovereign authority to an inventor, giving them exclusive control over the use of a specific process, design, or invention for a limited period. In exchange, the inventor must fully disclose the details of the invention. Patents are considered intangible rights. In most countries, government agencies are responsible for reviewing and approving patent applications. In the United States, this role is performed by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, which operates under the Department of Commerce. The Market Education Feature was brought to you by Carrie Chris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards. And that's the Market Education Feature and the end of the local segment. Please stick around. The regional business news is up next.
Alphabet down 6, Microsoft down 5.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Don't never ever ever wanna calm down. No, no, no. Yeah, yeah.
Alphabet down 6, Microsoft down 5.
Welcome back. We go now to news from across the region. Guyanese businessman and presidential candidate Azruddin Mohammed has been granted bail in the sum of 500,000 Guyanese dollars on Wednesday, following his appearance at the Georgetown Magistrates Court in connection with tax evasion charges related to the under-declaration of a high-end Lamborghini vehicle. Magistrate Faith Magusti ruled in favor of cash bail, citing the need for consistency in judicial decisions. The prosecution, representing the Guyana Revenue Authority GRA, did not object to bail, but urged that it be set at a level commensurate with the gravity of the alleged tax evasion, totaling over Guyanese $383 million. They argued that the bail amount should reflect both the seriousness of the charges and the significant financial implications involved. Defense attorney Damien Da Silva pushed for Mohammed to be released on self-recognizance. However, Magistrate Magusti declined to grant self-bail, but imposed no restrictions on Mohammed's ability to travel. The matter has been adjourned to June 26, when both parties are expected to return for further legal proceedings, including disclosure of evidence. Staying with news from Guyana, Vice President Dr. Bart Jagdeo is warning that the fallout from U.S. sanctions against businessman Azruddin Mohammed could extend far beyond Mohammed himself, potentially implicating those with political or business ties to him. Mohammed, his father Nazar Mohammed, and their company, Mohammed's Enterprise, were sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control, or OFAC, in June last year. The sanctions target alleged systematic corruption, including evasion of more than US $50 million in customs duties and bribery of officials to facilitate illegal gold exports. Speaking at a press briefing Thursday, Jagdeo stressed that the sanctions have completely cut off the Mohammed family's access to Guyana's financial system.
Right now, this guy and the family can't own a bank account in Guyana. That is how bad it is. Because if they own a bank account, the bank will get sanctioned by the US. No bank in Guyana will give them a bank account, will not make a money transfer on their behalf. Can't do business with them at all because they could be at risk of sanction. Imagine that's what is happening now. Nobody, he can't own a bank account in the country. He or his father or the family. That is as bad as it is.
Despite the sanctions, Azruddin has launched a political campaign and is fielding candidates for the upcoming general elections. However, Jagdeo says the Mohammed's attempts to portray themselves as the sole targets of U.S. sanctions are misleading. He warns that those aligning with Mohammed risk exposing themselves to serious international consequences.
The fallacy of people around him not being sanctioned. They tried to portray this as a lie. So the primacy's issue, oh, that was not because of association with Mohammed. It's everybody. So just imagine he puts up a list of candidates. After the elections, when he loses, because he's not going to make much difference, he will be looking out for himself. He's looking out for himself. He then leaves everybody else who was on that list exposed. They're all going to be exposed. Imagine Primus got her visa pulled because of just association with him.
Vice President of Guyana, Dr. Bart Jagdeo. And in a move aimed at encouraging regional connectivity and easing travel costs, the government of St. Lucia will reduce airport service charges for intra-Caribbean travel by 50% starting June 1. The announcement was made by Prime Minister and Minister for Finance Philip Japere as part of a broader plan to ease the cost of living and stimulate economic activity. The reduced charges will remain in effect until December 31 this year in the first instance. The government hopes this temporary cut will boost tourism, facilitate business, and encourage family connections throughout the Caribbean. The initiative also comes as regional governments continue to seek ways to enhance intra-Caribbean mobility and reduce barriers to travel. Further evaluations will be conducted before the end of the year to determine whether the reduced charges should be extended or made permanent. And there was no trading on the TTSE today, so we don't have any results for you. That's it for Regional Business News. Please stay with us. The International Business News is up next.
Alphabet down 6, Microsoft down 5.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the QMAX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why QMAX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
Alphabet down 6, Microsoft down 5.
Welcome back. We go now to international business news. Canada's economy expanded by 0.5% in the first quarter of 2025, matching the revised growth rate from the previous quarter and surpassing market expectations. However, the strength in GDP was largely attributed to a surge in net exports and inventory accumulation rather than broad-based domestic demand. Exports of goods and services rose by 1.6%, outpacing a 1.1% increase in imports, as businesses pushed to ship goods ahead of anticipated U.S. tariffs. Meanwhile, firms significantly rebuilt inventories, adding $8.7 billion to GDP after drawing them down late last year. Despite the headline growth, underlying indicators pointed to economic caution. Household consumption slowed sharply to 0.3%, down from 1.2% in Q4 last year, amid rising uncertainty. Government spending also declined by 0.8%, marking its first contraction in a year. On an annualized basis, GDP grew 2.2%, comfortably beating forecasts of 1.7%, though the composition of growth suggests lingering concerns about the resilience of domestic demand. Now to news from the United States. Inflation in the United States showed further signs of cooling in April 2025, with the Federal Reserve's preferred gauge, the Personal Consumption Expenditures (PCE) price index, rising just 0.1% month over month, following a flat reading in March. The core PCE index, which excludes food and energy, also rose 0.1%, matching market expectations. On an annual basis, headline PCE inflation eased to 2.1%, the lowest in 7 months, down from 2.3% in March. Core PCE inflation also declined to 2.5%, its lowest level since March 2021. Goods prices edged up 0.1% after a 0.5% drop in March, while services inflation moderated to 0.1% from 0.2%. Energy prices rebounded by 0.5%, and food prices fell 0.3%. Meanwhile, personal consumption rose 0.2% in April, slowing from a 0.7% gain in March as the pre-tariff spending surge tapered off. Now, services spending increased 0.4%, driven by housing, healthcare, and food services, while goods spending dipped 0.1% amid weaker demand for durable items like vehicles and recreational goods. And WTI crude futures fell over 1% to $60.30 per barrel on Friday, heading for a second consecutive weekly decline amid escalating trade tensions and uncertainty ahead of the upcoming OPEC Plus meeting. Market sentiment was rattled after President Trump accused China of violating a recent trade agreement aimed at easing tariffs, though he offered no specifics. The remarks reignited fears of renewed friction between the world's two largest economies, dampening the demand outlook for oil. Attention now turns to the OPEC Plus meeting scheduled for Saturday, where the group will decide on production levels for July. Sources suggest a potential output increase beyond the previously planned 411,000 barrels per day, as major producers like Saudi Arabia and Russia push to reclaim market share and penalize members that have exceeded quotas. Kazakhstan's refusal to cut output has further strained internal dynamics, increasing the likelihood of a larger supply boost. And that's it for the international news segment. Please stay with us. The news recap is coming up on the other side of this break.
Alphabet down 6, Microsoft down 5.
If it were not for the Jamaica Stock Exchange listing, Phosphate Company Limited would not be where it's at today. I called them, they listened to my concerns and my fears, and they gave me the answers. All the fears I had about banks, about losing control, you are having them. And I tell you, they were dissipated when I spoke to the Jamaica Stock Exchange. This is one of the best decisions I have ever made in business. If you want to change the trajectory of your business and to grow, make that call today to the Jamaica Stock Exchange. You will be glad you did.
Alphabet down 6, Microsoft down 5.
Welcome back. Now for a recap of the stories making today's CBX Evening News. Investment Minister urges banks to diversify services to better support businesses, and thousands reconnected as NWC Amnesty declares $1.4 billion in debt. In regional business news, Guyanese presidential candidate Azruddin Mohammed granted $500,000 bail, and Jagdeo warns of business fallout from association with U.S.-sanctioned gold dealer. And on the international scene, Canada's economy grows 0.5% in Q1, and U.S. inflation eases in April. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Yunil Wood, thanking you for joining us and wishing for you a wonderful weekend. And you have another day to celebrate Child's Month, so please treat them well.
Alphabet down 6, Microsoft down 5.
The Caribbean Business Exchange now presents a regional feature. Pleasant viewing.
Meu nome é Daiana Silveiras, tenho 33 anos, sou diarista e moro com os meus dois filhos, o Pedro de 17 anos e o Juan de 9. Quando chegou a pandemia, eu pensei, nossa, vamos diminuir muitas coisas, né? Diminuir o trabalho. Há uns anos atrás, eu